Hi, I'm Matt Needham, and this is my video on common air conditioning and refrigeration abbreviations. Let's dive right in. First one is heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration, HVACR. The next one is BTU, British Thermal Unit. This is how we measure the quantity of heat. This one, TXV, is thermostatic expansion valve. It's a type of refrigerant metering device. Also, this is electronic expansion valve. This is also another type of refrigerant metering device that's a lot of times used in more modern systems. Next is TDS, total dissolved solids. This is the amount of stuff that's in water that isn't water, usually measured in micromoles or parts per million, ppm, parts per million, which a lot of times is measured total dissolved solids. This is how much of something is in another substance or how much there is per million. This is feet per minute, FPM here, feet per minute. This is usually how we measure the speed of airflow, flowing in feet per minute. Along with that, we have cubic feet per minute, CFM. It's the quantity of air that moves per minute in cubic feet. Okay? The other was the speed, this is the quantity. And this is gallons per minute, GPM. This is how we measure how much, let's say, water flow we have flowing through piping with pumps and things of this nature, gallons per minute, GPM. PSIG, pounds per square inch gauge. This is how we standard measure pressure. Actually, when you measure tire pressure at the gas station, you're measuring it in PSIG, and this is normally how we measure it with the gauge manifold. Refrigerant pressures. PSIA, pounds per square inch absolute. Instead of just calling around us zero, real zero is outer space, so we measure it compared to that, or it would be about PSIG plus 14.696. PSIA, pounds per square inch absolute. PPE, personal protective equipment. These are things like safety glasses and gloves. IAQ, indoor air quality. People are very concerned with the quality of the air. What is the dust quantity? What is there a viral load or whatever in the air, indoor air quality. And along with that, we have MERV, minimum efficiency reporting value. This is how we rate air filters. The higher the MERV rating, the less particulates and things the air filter will let through it. And along with that, we have OSA, outside air. This is, we're always trying to bring in some outside air into buildings to freshen the air. Sometimes we bring 15%, sometimes we bring 100%, but the quantity of air, we talk about outside air, it's using mechanical ventilation to bring that in. And then return air. This is where the air leaves a room or a zone or space and is going back to the air conditioning unit or back to the air handler. That air is return air. On the other hand, supply air is where the air comes out of a vent, out of a grill, into a room that has generally been conditioned, supply air. Now this is VAV, Variable Air Volume. A lot of times we'll have an automatic type damper that can open or close to let more air in or less air in, as measured in CFM, cubic feet per minute, variable air volume. This is MSDS, or Material Safety Data Sheet. This is a sheet that gives you the chemical makeup of different compounds and cleaning materials and chemicals and things you may use on the job, and your organization should have a copy of the MSDS showing its hazards and its proper uses. This is ASHRAE, an organization that sets guidelines for air conditioning refrigeration. It stands for American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, Air Conditioning Engineers. Okay, another organization would be the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. They set guidelines dealing with refrigerants and the atmosphere as far as how they affect the ozone, global warming potential, and other things also, the EPA. This is OSHA. This is the organization that deals with safety, Occupational Safety Health Administration, OSHA. Okay. This is another organization or entity, authority having jurisdiction. So if the building inspector comes out and they're there to inspect a building or equipment and enforce the code, that building inspector is the authority having jurisdiction, AHJ. Okay. Now, this is GWP, global warming potential. Global warming potential is how much global warming a refrigerant has potential on the planet. It's based on carbon dioxide. The higher the global warming potential of the refrigerant, the worse it is in contributing to global warming. And a lot of refrigerants that are used now are in the few thousands, right? Some of the newer refrigerants are much less. And with that, HCFC, hydrochlorofluorocarbons, is an older type of refrigerant. The most popular was and is R22. Okay. This is hydrofluorocarbons. These are probably the most popular refrigerants here in 2021. This would be things like refrigerants like 404A, 134A, 410A. Okay. And these are a new group of refrigerant, HFO, hydrofluoroolefins, that are coming out that have much lower global warming potential than the HFCs. Okay. This is Seer, Seasonal Energy Efficiency Rating. And this is how we measure the efficiency of cooling equipment for air conditioning. Okay, the higher the Seer rating, the more energy efficient it is, the more BTUs it can remove per watt. Okay, so a 16 Seer air conditioning unit is better than a 14 Seer as far as energy efficiency goes for cooling. And then this is Hspf, or Heating Seasonal Performance Factor. This is how we rate the heating portion of a heat pump to see how efficient it is. And again, very similar to Seer. The higher the number, the more energy efficient that heat pump's heating is. Okay, and then this is a AFUE, Annual Fuel Utilization Efficiency. This is how we rate the efficiency of like gas-fired furnaces, like using natural gas. The higher the efficiency, if you have a 95% condensing furnace, it's much more efficient than the older, like 85% AFUE. Okay. This is SAE. This is how we abbreviate a flare connection to make a mechanical flare connection in our trade. And it stands for Society of Automotive Engineers, because back in 1910 or so, they were invented and primarily used on cars, and then they made their way into air conditioning and refrigeration. SAE for Flare Connection, Society of Automotive Engineers. Now, this is AC is really for alternating current. Okay, this is electricity goes back and forth. This is what comes out of all the electrical outlets in your home. Okay, DC is direct current, or electrons just flowing in one direction only. This is Hertz, HZ, or cycles per second. This is the number of times in alternating current that Mr. Electron comes out of the little hole on your outlet and goes to the big hole and then comes back. And it does that 60 times in a second in the United States, 60 hertz. Other foreign countries have 50 hertz or 50 cycles per second. And this is EMF, electromotive force. This is another way of just saying voltage or electrical pressure. This is horsepower. This is measuring the strength of motors and boilers, how much work can be done, HP, horsepower. Okay. This is RPM, revolutions per minute. Normally, we use RPM to see how fast is a motor going. How many revolutions does it go per minute? Okay, this is LED, light emitting diode, and this is a very efficient way of lighting. And we for many years have had little LED lights on our circuit boards and things like that. Light emitting diode for lighting. Okay, this is Gfci, ground fault circuit interrupter. These are like electrical outlets that have a special overload function where they're normally placed near water, and if there is a little leak of electricity, a minuscule leak of electricity to ground, it looks at the difference of the electricity that it puts out of the little hole compared to what it gets back, and if there's a difference there, we leaked a little bit somewhere on some water or to a ground, and it trips, and then you would have to hit the reset button on the Gfci, ground fault circuit interrupter. This is AWG. This is American wire gauge. This is how we measure the size of wires, the diameter of wires. DDC, direct digital controls. A lot of times this is how we use our energy management to send around these small signals for communication and to control things. Two most common types of signal would be 0 to 10 volts DC and 0 to 20 milliamps. PTC is a type of thermistor, positive temperature coefficient. This is something that changes its resistance with temperature. And with PTC, as the temperature goes up, the resistance goes up. And conversely, NTC is a thermistor, negative temperature coefficient. That means the thermistors, as the temperature goes up, the resistance goes down on the thermistor. This is integrated furnace controller. This is like the circuit board in a furnace that controls everything. Integrated furnace controller. This is PSC, permanent split capacitor. It's a type of motor, a single-phase motor. If you have a single-phase motor and it has a run capacitor and nothing else, no start capacitor, no relays or PTCs or anything like that, it is a PSC motor. Okay. We also have electrically commutated motor. These are single-phase type motors, usually about a horsepower and below, that are energy efficient, and quite often we can speed up or slow down the speed of that motor. And then similar, we have VFD, variable frequency drive. These are three-phase motors that we can also control the speed of and speed it up or slow it down as needed. And that concludes my lecture on common air conditioning and refrigeration abbreviations.